Listen up! Our number one star is injured, and Dan Quinn isn't sure he'll have him available on Sunday. A third-round pick who was supposed to be the future of our offensive line just faced the most devastating humiliation of his professional career. And we've got a rookie who just silenced all the critics with a historic performance against one of the NFL's best pass rushers. But do you think Adam Peters is done moving pieces? I tell you, this is just getting started. And you know what's the craziest part of all this? When I think about all we've suffered as Commanders fans over the past years, when I remember the seasons where we didn't have a single consistent threat in the passing game, it breaks my heart to think that Terry McLaurin might miss the game against Atlanta due to a quad injury. I say this with my heart in my hand. After years of watching this team struggle with mediocre receivers, after seasons where our quarterbacks had absolutely no one reliable, Terry McLaurin became our identity. Do you remember the 2022 season when Carson Wentz and Taylor Heinicke were running for their lives, and the only thing that worked was throwing the ball to Terry? Do you remember how this man carried this offense on his back during years of organizational incompetence? Now I ask you, do you think it's a coincidence that McLaurin gets injured just as Jaden Daniels is starting to find his rhythm? I think this is the cruelest moment possible. 3 catches for 74 yards against the Raiders before getting injured. That play that almost ended in a touchdown of 60-something yards. That's where everything went wrong. And you know what worries me the most about this situation? The timing, folks. We're talking about a quad, and anyone who's played football knows that's not an injury you can push through without risking something much worse. Do you think Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are going to risk McLaurin's health to win a game in September? I hope they're smarter than that. But let's analyze the real impact of this from a technical perspective. Without McLaurin, Cliff Kingsbury's entire offensive structure falls apart. Why? Because Terry is not just our number one receiver, he's Jaden Daniels' security blanket. He's the guy who's always open on 3rd and long. He's the one who can win one-on-one matchups when the pocket collapses. The pressure now falls on Luke McCaffrey, who's in his 2nd season, and although he's shown flashes, we don't know if he can handle the pressure of being the primary receiver against a defense like Atlanta's. We've got Jalen Lane, a rookie who, yes, made a great return play against the Raiders. But do you think he's ready to be a constant threat in the passing game? Noah Brown is also injured, and Deebo Samuel is going to have to carry much more weight than we expected when he signed with us. Now I ask you this. Have you analyzed how the Falcons play at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium? A.J. Terrell is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, a guy who can cover any receiver one-on-one. Jesse Bates III is playing at an all-pro level at safety, and his chemistry with that secondary is at an optimal point. Do you seriously think Jaden Daniels can navigate that defense without his most reliable weapon? I think Dan Quinn is going to have to completely revolutionize the game plan. More emphasis on the running game with Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler. More use of Ben Sinnott as a tight end in short pass situations. More screens and quick slants to take advantage of the speed of our young receivers. But that means we're limiting the options of a rookie quarterback who needs all tools available. And you know what's most frustrating about this situation? That while we're here worried about our star's health, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb completely healthy. The Eagles have a Jay Brown and Devonta Smith forming one of the best duos in the league. Even the Giants, who are in total crisis, at least have Malik Neighbors as a constant threat. And we could be playing without our best receiver in a crucial divisional game. But you know what gives me hope in all this? That this organization under Adam Peters has shown that it makes smart long-term decisions. If McLaurin can't play at 100%, I'd rather he stay home and fully recover. Because we need Terry McLaurin healthy for December and January, not to push him in September and risk his entire season. If that surprises you, wait to hear this. When I think about all the 3rd-round picks this organization has wasted over the years, when I remember all the promises of players who were supposed to be part of the future and ended up being draft busts, I can't believe we're watching the same movie with Brandon Coleman. But this time it's different because the decision was right. Can't believe what just happened with this kid. Brandon Coleman, a third-round pick from last year, a player Adam Peters saw as a key piece of our future offensive line, has just been declared healthy and active. Do you understand the magnitude of this public humiliation? I'll tell you this after years covering this team. When a third-round pick can't keep his starting job in his second year and is declared healthy and active, that sends a clear message to the entire organization. Dan Quinn is saying that in these Commanders, no one has their spot guaranteed. Not even a third-round pick. But do you know what impresses me the most about this decision? Quinn's courage to make it. It would have been so easy to keep Coleman as a starter and justify it by saying he needs time to develop. But Quinn sighed nitrogen monoxide. He preferred to give the opportunity to Chris Paul, a seventh-round pick in his last year of his rookie contract. Let's analyze this technically. The first 2 weeks were an absolute disaster on the offensive line. Jaden Daniels faced pressure on 42% of his dropbacks. The pocket was collapsing in less than 2.5 seconds in obvious passing situations. And Coleman was a direct part of that problem. Chris Paul came in and what happened? The line held solid against the Raiders' defense that has players like Max Crosby and Chandler Jones. And you know why Paul succeeded? Because he knows he's fighting for his professional life in the NFL. As a seventh-round pick, every snap could be the last of his career. Now I ask you, do you think Coleman got complacent thinking his draft status protected him? I think so. And Quinn just gave him the toughest lesson of his professional career. In this league, your last game is all that matters, not where you were selected in the draft. But do you know what's the most interesting part of all this from a roster management perspective? Andrew Wiley moved from right tackle to the interior to replace Nick Allegretti. And the Wild-Paul combination worked better than anything we'd seen with Coleman-Allegretti in the first 2 weeks. Does that mean Coleman was never the answer? Or does it mean he needed this wake-up call to prove he deserves to be on this offensive line? I think Coleman has two paths. Either he gets back up, accepts he made mistakes, works harder than ever, and fights to regain his spot, or he becomes another draft bust in the history of this franchise. And we've had enough draft busts in Washington. And do you know what's the craziest part of all this? That while Coleman is struggling to keep his job in Washington, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys have Tyler Smith completely established in their offensive line. The Eagles have Landon Dickerson playing at an all-pro level in the interior. The Giants have issues, but at least they know who their 5 starters are. And we have internal drama in a position that was supposed to be settled. But you know what gives me confidence in this decision? That Adam Peters and Dan Quinn aren't making decisions based on draft status or internal politics. They're making decisions based on performance, on who gives them the best chance of winning games every Sunday. And that's what this organization needed after years of mediocrity. Now I ask you this, do you think Coleman will respond positively to this benching? I hope so, because we need depth on the offensive line. But if he doesn't respond, if he doesn't show he can play with the urgency and intensity this league requires, then Peters will have to look for another solution, either in next year's draft or in free agency. Because one thing is clear, we're not going to protect Jaden Daniels with players who aren't up to the task, no matter where they were drafted. But here comes the really crazy part. After 2 weeks where I thought we were going to have to urgently look for a solution at right tackle, after seeing Josh Conerly Jr. completely lost against some of the league's best pass rushers, I thought Dan Quinn was going to make a change. The fans around here in the DMV were calling for his head on social media. But our head coach kept the faith and Conerly justified that decision in the most spectacular way possible. This is burgundy and gold, baby. Josh Conerly Jr. was one of only 6 tackles in the entire league who didn't allow a single pressure in Week 3. And against whom did he do it? Against Max Crosby, a pass rusher who's been to the Pro Bowl 4 times and who destroys offensive lines every Sunday like it's his personal job. Do you understand how historically difficult this is? Conerly had allowed 11 pressures in the first 2 games. 11 pressures in 2 games. Against the Buccaneers, Vita V completely dominated him in running game situations. Against the Giants, Kayvon Thibodeau made him look like a lost rookie. And suddenly he completely neutralizes one of the best defenders in the league. Now I ask you, do you think this was luck, or did we really see the breakthrough that this kid from the University of Oregon needed? I think it was the result of hard work and a coaching staff that didn't give up on him. Let's analyze this technically, because it's important for you to understand what really happened. In the first 2 weeks, Conerly looked stiff in his stance, committed too quickly with his hand placement, and his footwork was completely out of sync with Jaden Daniels' timing in the pocket. Against Crosby, he maintained his base, was patient with his hands, utilized his natural length to maintain distance, and most importantly, trusted his technique. But do you know what impressed me more than the stats? The coaching staff's confidence in him. Quinn could have moved Andrew Wiley back to right tackle where he had played before. He could have brought in George Fant or Trent Scott to handle Crosby. But he decided to keep Conerly in the position and give him the confidence he needed to grow. Ben Sinnott also deserves credit for his work as a blocking tight end. He gave chip blocks to Conerly when necessary, especially in third and long situations where Crosby typically does his most damage. Andrew Wiley gave him stability from the inside, ensuring he didn't have to worry about stunts or complicated defensive games. But at the end of the day, Conerly had to do the hardest work. Now I ask you this. Have you analyzed what's coming on the schedule? The Atlanta Falcons have James Pierce Jr. and Jalon Walker, 2 first-round rookies who are going to come after him with everything they've got. Leonard Floyd remains a legitimate threat who can generate pressure from multiple positions. Arnold Ebiketie can do damage both as an edge rusher and in nickel situations. It's another trial by fire for our right tackle. But do you know why I'm confident Conerly will be ready? Because he's already shown he can play against the best. Because he has the mental strength you need to play tackle in this league. And because he has a coaching staff that believes in him even when the fans had lost faith. And do you know what's the most important thing about all this for the future of this franchise? That we finally have projected stability on the offensive line. Tyler Biadasz is solid at center. Sam Cosmi is playing at a Pro Bowl level at left tackle. Andrew Wiley has perfectly adapted to the interior. And now Conerly is proving he can protect Jaden Daniels' blind side against any pass rusher in the league. Compare that to what's happening in the rest of the NFC East. The Cowboys are worried about Tyron Smith's health and don't know if their offensive line can protect Dak Prescott in critical moments. The Eagles have talent, but have had consistency issues in their interior line. The Giants continue to struggle to find 5 guys who can play together effectively. And we have a rookie who just showed he can neutralize Max Crosby. But you know what excites me most about Conerly's performance? That it wasn't just an isolated game where everything went perfectly. It was the result of weeks of work and practice, of studying film, of understanding that in this league, you have to earn respect every Sunday. And last Sunday, Conerly earned the respect of the entire league. I believe this performance against Crosby will be the moment that defined Conerly's career as a Commander. It will be the point where he went from being a lost rookie to becoming a key piece of our future. And that's what I want to see from all our young players. Commanders fans, these 3 news items change everything. McLaurin injured, Coleman humiliated, Conerly emerging as a star. Do you think we can win in Atlanta with all these variables at play? Do you believe Coleman deserves another chance after this public humiliation? Or did Quinn make the right decision to bench him? And are you absolutely convinced that Conerly can maintain this elite level against the best pass rushers in the league? I need each of you to leave your most honest opinions in the comments. If you think McLaurin is going to play on Sunday against the Falcons, give this video a like. If you think Coleman needs more time on the bench to learn the most important lesson of his career, subscribe to the channel because we're going to follow this story until it's fully resolved. Because I guarantee you that tomorrow we're going to have more explosive news about Adam Peters moving pieces on the roster, about Dan Quinn making controversial decisions that will divide the fan base, and about Jaden Daniels growing every week and showing why he was the right pick at number 2 in the draft. You can't miss what's coming, because this season is shaping up to be the most exciting one we've had in years. Join this family, this community that lives and breathes burgundy and gold every day of the year. Let's become the #1 Commanders news channel on YouTube, because when we stand united, when we fight together for this team, we are unstoppable. And remember, hail to the Redskins!